What's up, guys? How's it going? It is Matt here. Today what I want to talk about is guns and ego. All right, guns and ego. And to make this video short, I'll put it like this: guns and ego do not mix. All right, they do not mix. So we're gonna get into it a little bit. I watch a lot of security footage on YouTube. I watch security footage. I watch a lot of badge cams. I watch dash cams and stuff like that. I think for me, as a firearms owner, as a instructor, when I do my basic stuff, I teach basic pistols and stuff like that. Is for me to be familiar with laws and everything else and like that in various scenarios. I think it's important for me to be watching those videos to see different scenarios where guns are involved and whatnot. So most instructors, we do watch them a lot. There's a lot of people in general that watch these videos a lot just to learn, right? But one thing I've noticed in some of these videos, and it's in my Facebook feeds, and it's pretty much every single social media feed that I'm on or something like that. Something comes in there, and it shows someone that treats a gun pretty much like a middle finger. Is the best way to explain it. They treat a gun like a middle finger is one way to put it. They say if they get into an argument or something like that. Like I remember this video was a while back that I watched. It wasn't too long ago actually. There's one of those street car racing things. I don't know what you call them, drag race. I don't know what the heck you call it. Whatever. But they're out there. They're having like their party in the middle of the night and stuff like that, and they're all drinking. And they're having a good old time. And I guess they're racing their cars and drinking. That's what it looked like to me. But basically speaking, is two dudes get into an argument. And during this argument, it gets pretty intense. And then one dude decides that, well, we're in an argument and I'm losing this argument, so I should probably pull my gun and end this argument. So he quickly draws his Glock and he points it at the person he's arguing with. And people are freaking out like, dude, what the heck's your problem, man? What the heck are you doing pointing a gun at him? And there was no defensive reason he was pulling out that gun whatsoever. The reason he was doing it was because his ego was hurt. So he pulled out his gun to prove a point, right? Yeah, to prove a point. Now, there's other videos out there where I've seen like an old dude, old timer, going up to someone's car, and you guys have probably seen this video too. Complete road rage incident. A dude going up to someone's car to talk to him and yell at him and shout him and tell that the other guy's wrong. And instead of doing that, he pulls his jacket aside and he's got a Glock pointing right at the driver. Because after all, when you approach a vehicle because you're angry and you pull a gun on them, that's obviously justified, right? Or is that dude has a serious ego problem and he's using his gun as an extension of his ego and anger, all right, to try to prove a point, all right, which is not okay, all right, that is not okay. Other times when it comes down to it is in my videos, or I watch other YouTube videos and stuff like that, and I read some of the comments, and I read most of the comments in my channel too. Is when I talk about specific gun models, like the 1911, for example. I covered this in my live video that I did the other day. There's this one dude that answered. I was talking about the ammo, about 45 ACP, the ammo, the best ammo choose for a 1911, how they're designed around Full Metal Jacket. In that video, I actually talked a little bit about the history of a 45 ACP during World War I and primarily during World War II. What 45 ACP was one of the most common calibers that was used a lot. They had their pistols, they had 1911s, they had revolvers, they had their Thompson submachine guns, and the grease guns. So grease ones, I'm pretty sure, were 45s, and they all had 45, and they were very commonly used on the front lines on a daily basis. I mean, 30-06 and 45 ACP were the commonly used rounds. And I talked about how common it was and how there is people during World War II, a lot of Medal Honor recipients, that it came down to either them and their 1911 and them and their Thompson submachine gun with their drive to save their fellow soldiers, fellow Marines, and that, who that earned that Medal of Honor, lost their lives, earned that Medal of Honor. I had a dude that commented in that video. I guess he really doesn't like 1911s because that's pretty much what it sounded like. Because he decided to change history and basically said that the reason we won World War II had nothing to do with the 45 ACP. It had nothing to do with the ground guys, I guess. But apparently, according to what he said, is according to World War II and the history books that he's read, what we won World War II with was bombing. Lots of bombing, tons of bombing, and nuclear bombing, and conventional bombing. That's what won World War II, is what he said in it. If you read the history books, or if you know anything about it, or if you went to the military and they taught you history about your units and stuff like that, I can tell you my whole history of my unit and stuff like that. You would learn that the technology back then wasn't what we had today. They didn't have fancy JDAMs. They didn't have laser guided systems. Now, they did a lot of carpet bombing. They did a lot of carpet bombing, and don't get me wrong, the bombing stopped a lot of fights. But what won World War II was boots on the ground, all right? Storming the beaches. It was the courageous individuals, soldiers, Marines, airmen, sailors that were putting their lives at risk to save the day, to help out. It was a unified, what do you call it? It's a mixed between ground forces, indirect fire. Indirect fire is like mortar fire, artillery fire, naval fire, right? Naval from their big guns and stuff like that. So it's the communication between the ground troops and the indirect fire that helped them win. At the same time, when they get far enough away, they didn't have the best communication systems out there. So it was boots on the grounds. I mean, like when we were overseas, when I was overseas in modern day Afghanistan, for me it was Iraq. You start getting some really heavy heat, and you call an airstrike. All right, and that usually ends the fight pretty quickly. They didn't have the luxury of that back then. If they were lucky, they might have some planes that can make it out there. But most part, they didn't have the luxury that we had. They couldn't just stand around and wait for an Apache to show up with some Hellfires. They literally had to fight it out and fight it out for days and hours at a time just until they could get reinforcements or support. So it was boots on the ground and hard chargers and the technology that they were using at the time, which was the firearms that they were using, the Thompsons, the Garands, the carbines, the Garands, I'll say it right, Garand, right? The Garands, the carbines, the 1911s, the revolvers, the mortars. That's the technology they had at the time. So that dude, he had such ego when it comes to hating 1911 so much. Okay, it kind of goes one and the same. That basically speaking, he wanted to change history to wipe that from the maps just to prove his point because he had too much ego because how bad the 1911 was. Now, basically speaking, what happens is when someone goes out and buys a gun. All right, when someone goes out and buys a gun, not everyone can have a ton of guns. All right, not everyone can have a ton of guns. Guns are pretty expensive. All right, and there's a lot of paperwork and stuff that you got to do in order to get them. So when someone goes out and actually buys a gun, all right, they put the money into it. A lot of them, some people change, not a lot of them, but some people change when they get that gun because that gun is no longer just a gun. It's almost like an ego trip. It's like, now I got a gun, right? Now I got a gun type of deal. Or now that I got this gun. And then they start looking for videos to justify the purchase. Everyone does it. Like, was this a good gun to get? Well, the problem is that when they start doing that, then they also start looking for videos that, or basically they start commenting and looking for videos which say all the other guns are bad, right? And your gun's the good gun, so your Glock or whatever it is that you chose is the good gun when all the other guns are bad. So therefore, you did the right thing, so you choose the right choice and stuff like that. And a lot of people, their ego kind of go through the roof. Now, the same thing goes for 1911 lovers. 1911 lovers. There's a lot of people out there that say if you want a good 1911, you have to spend a minimum of $1,200. That's it. And then they'll see in their comments, she's like, I have 4 of them. I have 3 of them. I have this. I have what is it, Dan Weston. I'm like sitting there, I look in the comments. I'm like, okay. They're like, you're dumb for carrying a Rock Island. Why would you even wait? You do a video on a Rock Island Armory. You need to go out and get yourself a Cabot. Right, because you need a Wilson Combat because you got to spend a minimum of $1,500 on a gun, and that ego that they trip from buying those really expensive guns that I have a high probability, just what I'm thinking, I might be wrong, but what I'm thinking is they probably don't take them out very much, right? They're probably kind of like collector type of things. But basically speaking is they get that kind of ego with those guns, and it shows in the comments and the stuff that they do in the world. And if they're talking to someone else about a gun, well, my gun's better. Why? Because it's a Cabot. Why? Because. Now, I want to end this video because this video is a little bit longer than I was hoping with this, all right? Guns are tools, all right? Guns are weapons, okay? Guns are tools for defense and tools against tyranny. That's what guns are, all right? Guns are not the middle finger, all right? So you can't pull over and, flip someone the middle finger, right? You can't do it that way, all right? Guns are not the middle finger. Guns are not argument enders. They don't end arguments, right? They're not designed for that. Guns are designed to pull at the last resort when there's no other options and you have nowhere to go. And you need to defend yourself, your family, or you need to fight against tyranny. That is what a gun is for. Anyway, guys, if you like this video, like, share, subscribe, tell your friends about me. And remember, it's our responsibility to take care of each other and protect each other. Peace.